Welcome to Cabinet on 27th of June, 2 p.m. You'll probably have noticed in the room, and anybody who's watching, that we're not in our usual council chamber. There's some work going on, so we're using this facility on a temporary basis until the work's completed. But anyway, welcome everybody. Membership of the Cabinet, we've got apologies from
Councillor Scott, Chair.
Yeah, Councillor Scott.
Councillor Mather attending.
Sorry?
Councillor Mather.
Councillor Mather should... in on the way, I saw earlier on. Any minutes of previous meeting, are they correct record? Any declaration of interest, please complete the form and hand it in to Andrea at the end of the meeting. Admission of the public. Any members of the public?
One member of the public.
Ah, John. Are you asking questions or you're just observing? Thank you very much. Item 5, deputations and petitions. Have you got any deputations and petitions? No, thank you very much. Questions by members of the public? No. Item 7, questions by elected members. Yes, Councillor Greaves.
Thank you. Thank you, Leader.
It's a bit strange in this meeting. I'm not used to it.
Is it on? Lovely. Good afternoon. I'm here to address Cabinet on schools Section 106 funding and to make a demand that Kirklees complies with its legal duties and stops blocking the release of £1.7 million of badly needed funding to schools in rural Kirklees. This is an issue that independent councillors have been working on for some years, with endless frustration. While Section 106 applies across Kirklees, attempts have been made to direct money from rural schools into schools in the town centre, which is not permitted. The Section 106 developer payments are the silver lining to the cloud of ever more development. We're getting the housing whether we want it or not, and this money is supposed to help address some of the impacts of new development. Well, the money is never enough. For many schools in the rural area, it's the only top-up funding that they will see for a decade. To try to move the money elsewhere is unfair and unjust, and it breaches planning law as well as the actual legal agreements that the Section 106 is based on. And we would still get all the houses, just no money to go with them. So this money has been collected from developers to support capital works in nearby schools. And in some cases, the money has sat around for 5 years, whilst the schools that were legally entitled to have it have struggled to find funding to improve their buildings.
I've got a question there. This is a question by elected members. Councillor Greaves. Can we please have your question?
My question is, will Cabinet put a stop to this now? Will it commit openly and publicly to comply with the legal obligations and to release the money to the rural schools so that they can pay for improvements that Kirklees won't? It needs to set out any change in policy and to share this with councillors. And if there is a policy to divert money to other areas, it will face strong opposition. Later on in this agenda, you'll be looking at schools' capital budget. I hope none of that is planned on being funded by diverting Section 106 from my schools.
Thank you, Councillor Charles Greaves. Councillor Patterson, do you want to answer the question, please?
I will certainly in part. Certainly 106 monies is arrived at, or the figure that any particular development attracts is arrived at via a formula, a national formula, which is, and that money is meant to offset the impact of that development on the local area, or the local area, not a local school. I mean, education, obviously, but not a specific school necessarily. And it is about places as opposed to improving a playground, new playing fields or even improving a roof. It is about places on the whole. And as it may sometimes be about a dining room, if the dining room isn't big enough to hold increased numbers in a school. Each year, we produce a school places document which shows whether or not any particular area, any particular school is in need of increased places. And that takes into account any new building in the area. And what we do know, and particularly, actually, as Councillor Greaves is talking about rural schools, right across the country, right across Kirklees, but particularly in our rural areas, school place numbers are actually going down. There is not an increased demand, not even as a result of new house building, as can be predicted. The house building often can take 5 or 10 years for places or to have that impact as houses are built, as families move in, as the children grow up. It can be 5 or 10 years before an impact is actually felt on any particular school. So the money is kept in a 106 account and is used to offset that increased demand where it does occur. Now, having said all that, we realise that it isn't necessarily the best system, and there is a review which I think Councillor Turner might be able to tell you a bit more about the use of Section 106 monies overall. But we are certainly not using 106 monies to build the new schools that we're talking about later on in this agenda, or to improve the buildings of any other school that far away from any particular development.
Thank you, Councillor Patterson. So at least we're clear that the capital plan in this report is not covering the issue that you talked about. Have you got supplementary, Councillor Greaves?
Yeah, I do. Thank you. Well, unfortunately, the council still seems to be split over this approach. And I can say that I think the Cabinet needs to consult with the legal officers and the planning officers about exactly how Section 106 works, what those legal agreements say, what those obligations mean. There is no discretion, there is no option, there's no choice on those existing agreements. In January 22, we saw an attempt to divert £500,000 worth of Section 106 from Brockhalls. And this is the risk that this council runs. In doing that, the developer then stated that the legal link between paying this money and the purposes no longer applied, and that rather than pay £500,000 for this Cabinet to decide where to spend it, it wouldn't pay a penny. It was only by the intervention of independent councillors that we got Kirklees to drop that and to make the developers recommit to paying the money to those local schools. There's a massive danger here, and that danger is that if Cabinet don't understand how the Section 106 legal process works, it jeopardises millions of pounds worth of funding. And I say this. My question is this. If, due to the Cabinet's failure to understand its legal obligations, money is lost from our schools, will the Cabinet members, will the Labour Party make good the difference, or will they expect ratepayers to stump up £1.7 million that developers should have been paying? That's my question.
Okay, so you mentioned legal and you mentioned planning officers. Without going too much into detail about the specific issue you raised, this council, neither this Cabinet, will do anything that contravened any legal issue or any planning advice. That's one thing I can assure you. Okay, any more questions? Councillor John Lawson.
Thank you, Leader. I'm here to ask a question about Cleckheaton Town Hall. The stage closed probably over a year ago when an issue was identified with the roof. Oh, sorry, not with the roof, with the ceiling. Since then, Many events have been postponed or cancelled. Among them was the Cleckheaton Folk Festival, which was quite a serious issue for the town because it draws in a lot of business. Recently, we've had hospitality businesses asking about how they can project for next summer if they have no news about what's happening with the Cleckheaton Town Hall. We've recently heard from users that there'll be no bookings from August. That there'll be no bookings from August until further notice. Can I ask how you're going to reassure residents in Cleckheaton that it will not take another year for this issue to be resolved, and that Cleckheaton Folk Festival next year, its place is assured in the calendar? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davis.
Thanks, John, for the question. Yep, absolutely right. As you say, we're aware of the impact, and certainly, you know, none of us are happy with the impact on residents because of the situation with Cleckheaton Town Hall. However, I think, as you're also aware, and as part of our overall approach in terms of corporate landlord, assets, etc., we are going through a review at the moment in terms of our budgets going forward and working out the most effective way to continue to keep our buildings up to the standard that they should be, and at the same time address the financial challenges we've got. So at this point, I certainly wouldn't be able to give you any timelines. More than happy to follow up on this and see if there's anything further, more specific I can give you. But clearly, and I know you understand this as well, we're in very difficult times. Hence, to some degree, I feel like a lack of clarity simply because we're looking through not just the maintenance and upkeep of Cleckheaton Town Hall, but of course across our whole asset base. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Councillor Paul Davis. Councillor Lawson.
Thanks for that, Councillor Davis. I think I'd go on to ask that there's a piece later on about the smaller towns investment, and that Cleckheaton Town Hall is front and centre of those plans. In fact, it's front and centre of the town itself. And I'd wonder how you would square the circle between those plans and the lack of intervention or the time it's taking to intervene in the town hall repairs.
Again, it's a frustration for a whole range of people. Frustration, obviously, for yourselves as local councils, and particularly for residents, and for ourselves as administration and officers. We have similar situations with other assets right across Kirklees, in my own ward. We've been having discussions about work on the library for some time and trying to ascertain when and what can be done. And it is, you know, the case that we're having to do that against this backdrop of the significant financial challenges, which I will talk about in the outturn. Very happy to have a follow-up. I can certainly, you know, organise that myself and you, and I'm sure, and I think I saw Joanne walking in earlier on. She sat in the back there somewhere. There she is. I'm sure we can organise a meeting, Joanne, as a follow-up with Councillor Lawson to have a chat about that. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you very much. Any more questions from any? Councillor John Lawson.
Thank you, Leader. Change of subject here, same bailiwick. The Oakenshaw Cross is an ongoing issue in my ward, and I'd want to know if there's any update about when and how this is going to be resolved.
I think the last question you asked at Cabinet, I think, or was it Council, I think the answer was that, you know, we are all feeling the pressures. We have all got big investment and structural backlogs in our towns, in our villages, in our wards, and as soon as we get more resources and we get capacity, you know, at this moment in time, I can't add to what we've already added unless you've got another question.
Thank you, Leader. So, Can I surmise then that nothing will be done with this cross until further notice?
Councillor Massoud, have you got any more information? Councillor Ahmed?
If I can. Thank you, Councillor Lawson. Officers are working with the group in question that you're making reference to, and there has been a meeting that's taken place this week, so hopefully I'll be in a better position to respond to you in terms of that meeting with the Monument Group, as well as the MP, Kim Ledbetter, who'd organised the meeting as well for the group. And I believe the ward councils are also informed of that meeting as well, so I'll be in a much better position and hopefully to get you an answer or email you the outcome of that meeting. Councillor Lawson. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Massoud. Any more questions from any councillors? Anybody online?
No.
No. Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to item 8, which is standard item, appointment of cabinet and portfolios and lead members. I'll just quickly read through them. They're in the paper. It's quite a straightforward report. Myself as leader, overall overview of the council and the strategic direction of the council. Councillor Cassie Scott will be helping me deliver that, and also she's got housing and democracy. Councillor Carol Patterson has got learning, aspiration and communities. Councillor Graham Turner, regeneration. Councillor Viv Kendrick, children's with the statutory responsibility for children's. Councillor Massoud Ahmed, environment. Councillor Naheed Mather, culture and greener Kirklees. Councillor Musrat Khan, health and social care. Statutory responsibility for adults. Councillor Paul Davis, corporate. And Councillor Eric Firth, transport. Are we all okay with that? Quick show of hands. Thank you, members. We'll move on. Item 9, Council Financial Outturn and Rollover Report 2022-23. Councillor Paul Davis, can I ask you to move this? Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. So today we're here, we're accounting the cost of last year's economic and financial crises. As we know, some of the challenges were unforeseeable. They were caused by international events. But many of our economic problems are homegrown. The Liz Truss mini-budget feels like a regrettable page in the history books, but anyone with a mortgage is still feeling the effects today. So in total, the cost of living crisis and demands on services resulted in a £27 million overspend on our £350 million revenue budget in 22-23. Despite the major challenges, the outturn report shows our financial planning was prudent and robust. As a result, we have been able to offset many of those extra costs by using our reserves. And we took immediate action to reduce costs, freezing much of our recruitment, rephasing capital spending, and rationalising some of our buildings. It means we've been able to weather the storm for now. But the economic picture remains bleak for the country and for local government finance. And despite the promises, the government has lost control of inflation and interest rates are hurting investment. This situation leaves households and public services with difficult choices to make during this financial year. The costs of pay, energy, goods and services all remain high. And with increasing demands on services like social care, it's no wonder the councils up and down the country are preparing to make tough decisions. We've delivered financial stability for this council over the years. The government's economic incompetence and disregard for public services mean that task is getting increasingly more difficult. With that context and with the detail contained within the report, I would ask Cabinet to approve Officer's recommendation in section 7 of this item. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much. I'd like to second that. Any questions or comments on this report? No? Can we have a show of hands and let's move to the next item? Item 10, 2023-24, 27-28, Council Capital Plan. Proposed allocation of capital funding from the Director of Children's Achieve and Aspire strategic priorities of the capital plan. Councillor Paul Davis. Is it Councillor Councillor Calpatson?
That was a quick, this year.
Yeah, I know. Carol, over to you.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, this report just really gives you the detail of an earlier report which came to this council or this cabinet meeting, talking about the creation of additional resource provision in a number of local schools. You now have the detail of those projects that we're looking where we're looking to add additional places for children with special educational needs. We want to invest in these extra special school places by extending existing special schools as well, but located at a different site, and we will be calling those will be called sort of satellite provisions of special schools that already exist. I mean, the demand for SEND provision is growing all around the country, and we are no different. And we have our SEND transformation plan, which is delivering on ensuring that we do provide the best provision for SEND children with SEND as possible. We want local children to attend local schools where possible, and we are creating new places and ensuring that they have high quality facilities. Our SEND transformation targets, the things that will make the biggest difference for our families, and also aims for every individual to fulfil their potential. We've worked very closely with all the schools involved in our plans, and we thank them for everything that they're doing. And together we are achieving better outcomes and improving many lives. So the specific schools are, are detailed here in the report. There's 12 additional resource provision places at Netherhall Infant and Nursery School, and another 20 at its sister school, Netherhall Learning Campus High School, has 20 additional resource places there as well. That's for children with complex communication and interaction needs. Both of those schools need some adaptation to the existing schools to accommodate those children, as do all of these schools. Old Bank Academy, an ARP is already approved there for 16 children. Beaumont Primary Academy, ARP places for 12 children. Carlinghow Academy, ARP, 12 places for 12 pupils. Southgate Special School, they have to include have some satellite provision at Newsom Academy, and then Woodley School and College is also looking to provide some post-16 satellite places, 16 vocational places for young people with autism. All of those projects demand that we provide some capital to improve the facilities where these are meant to be held or to be placed. So Cabinet is asked to approve that the capital plan provision for those particular schools, and also at the same time recognising that the world of finance, etc., at the moment, or construction at the moment, is a rapidly changing place, to ask that there is delegated authority to officers to transfer resources where necessary within a programme area without restriction, transfer resources between any project or programme area up to a maximum of 2 million in any financial year, and transfer resources within programme areas between any year within the approved capital plan. I mean, that's already been, there is already a financial procedure rule which enables that, and we've agreed that previously, but this is to be applied to these particular projects. So I'm very happy to agree to the officer's recommendations here. It is the SEND transformation programme and the additional SEND places we are really looking forward to seeing coming on stream as early as September in some instances. So I ask the Cabinet to approve this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Carol Patterson. Councillor Viv Kendrick, do you want to second that?
Very happy to second it, thank you, Chair. You know, providing local places for local Kirklees children with special educational needs, I think is an absolutely vital thing for us to be doing, and I'm absolutely happy to support this proposal.
Thank you very much. Are we all okay to approve that? Any comments, any questions? Put your hands up. I meant put your hands up if you want any comments or questions. Right? Yeah, but you're putting your hands up. Yeah. My point is, it's really hot in here. Seriously, you know, never take my jacket off. But anyway, we'll move on. So that's approved. I want to use my chair's discretion because I just realised under council, so under item 9, there's a budget line for £500,000 to allocate to the burial development in North Kirklees, specifically in Dewsbury. Now, I know that this matter has been a matter of debate at a few council meetings. We've had a couple of deputations, and it's really played out a lot over the last 12 months in our communities, especially in Dewsbury and Batley. And we have always been very, very clear. What we have always said that we continuously look at developing burial space for all faiths and people with no faiths, and that is something that we're very proud of. Not just for burials, but also for cremations as well, because there are a lot of people that cremate their loved ones after they die, both in Huddersfield and in Dewsbury. We have never been in a situation where we've run out of space, or we've never been in a situation where we could not cremate anybody. You know, we've had our fair share of challenges, from looking at replacing the furnaces that are used in the crematoriums, to looking at spaces in our cemeteries. And we've got some excellent officers who actually understand this area really, really well. We've developed a really good partnership with our police colleagues, our mortuaries and the health service, and we meet various needs for various denominations. For example, in certain faith communities, they bury their dead very, very quickly. And we've made sure that through working with the community and the voluntary sector, we actually can get a burial organised within a few hours of a person dying, as long as everything else follows up, which is a really, really excellent testimony of this council and the partnership we have. When the issue came up regarding allegations that there is no burial space, it's going to run out in a matter of months, we were always very, very clear that, you know, that won't happen, because we've got enough capacity to make sure that we will continue to provide the service. But at the same time, we were also very, very clear to say that we are continuously looking at new land, new provisions that will increase the longevity of our burial spaces. And I'm really pleased that the hard work has been going on behind the scenes. And at the last bereavement forum, I actually went and announced that we will be allocating £500,000, £500,000 from the council's capital plan to make sure that we provide a facility for burials in North Kirklees, specifically in Dewsbury, for all faiths and no faiths to bury their loved ones. Now, we've identified 2 sites. One of the sites is next to the crematorium. The other site we can't announce yet because it's a tenanted site, and it would be unfair for me to speculate or even tell you where that is. But if both sites are suitable, they'll generate 1,000 burial spaces each. That will then put into the system an extra 20 years at least of burial capacity. But even if only one is suitable, that will still generate 1,000 spaces, which will mean that we've got 10 years supply. But having said that, we are always looking at more land, and they are looking at land, our officers, and we're also looking at a strategic facility where we can actually provide a bigger space for all denominations and none, to actually have even a longer term plan for burial spaces. So I thought I just needed to clarify this, and that's why I've used my chair's prerogative to go back to the previous agenda item, because it's extremely important that, you know, in the cabinet meeting, our communities out there who are watching this webcast know our position. And once again, I'm really pleased that we've got a very active bereavement forum on a multi-faith basis. We've got a number of voluntary organisations. We've got some excellent undertakers who always are working very, very closely with us. But unfortunately, during the last few months, it's become politicised by certain parties. And we've never played politics with it, and I won't play politics with it, because life and death is a matter of life and death. It's very, very serious, and you know, I will never play politics with it at all. But at the same time, I will make sure that, you know, we put the money where our mouth is, which we have done. But if any members have got any more questions or comments on this, because I know that a number of you have been lobbied in the past, I'm happy to take your comments. Councillor Masood?
Yeah, I really welcome this good news, Leader. You're right. I've been lobbied by a number of groups within the North Kirklees regarding the burial space for all faiths. I'm pleased that we've now managed to get $500,000 for North Kirklees for all faiths, and 2 pieces of land are being looked at, and obviously one in particular has been identified, so obviously there's still some scoping and work being done on that. So that shows the work that the officers have been doing behind the scenes has been extensive as well. So I'd like to thank the officers for doing that work, and also the groups themselves, the burial groups and the undertakers and the religious institutions that have been heavily involved. And we've listened, we worked with them, we've took on board what they said, and quite clearly we've got a plan in place for the future, and quite clearly it's a big plan, and 1,000 spaces is quite a significant amount of burials, and no doubt we'll be looking at other work with through officers with those groups. So really pleased and welcome the $500,000 capital fund towards this. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any more questions or comments? No? Nope. Okay. Right, let's move on. Next item is item 11, housing delivery plan update. Is that Councillor Graham Turner?
It is, Chair. Thank you. I don't think I need to remind Cabinet and the wider public out there that we have a national housing crisis. Too many people chasing too few houses with not enough social housing and not enough affordable rental, decent affordable rental properties. And more recently, the rising cost of a mortgage now adding to this national housing crisis, not helping at all. We have ambitious targets for the life of the local plan. We need to ensure that we take every opportunity to develop new homes across the borough to help our residents get the decent homes they deserve and need. We are working with many varied and different partners in different ways to ensure we take every opportunity to deliver those much needed homes. Many of these joint venture projects are now actually delivering homes, some of which I think it's fair to say have been something of a challenge, and I would like to thank officers for their perseverance and hard work in getting these sites to a position of delivery. We now need to start to get some of our bigger sites moving, and members will note that we are looking for the release of 800k to support the prep work required at the Bradley site. This is one of our most important sites for the next few years and will deliver many thousands of much needed homes. As members will have noted, there are a lot of very detailed background papers associated with this report, which I'm sure you have all read. So, Chair, I move this report and the recommendations on page 112 of today's agenda.
Thank you very much, Councillor Graham Turner. Any questions or comments from any Cabinet members? No? Yeah, I'd like to second that, Councillor Turner. Really pleased to second this report, because there is a massive housing crisis. We all know that. The number of people that are on the housing waiting list, around 15,000, keeps on going up. We've got 41 council-owned sites across Kirklees, and we need to put everything in them to get our housing delivery to actually kickstart and start putting that growth back in. So I'm really happy to second the report. Quick show of hands for approval. Thank you, members. Next item is round 2 levelling up funding and local centres investment. Councillor Graham Turner.
So Chair, thanks again, thank you. As we know, this Cabinet, this administration, this Labour Party are ambitious for Kirklees. Not only for our major economic centres, but also for our smaller town centres. We absolutely recognise the value these small town centres bring to Kirklees, not only creating jobs and wealth, but providing a different offer than the major town centres. We are currently working on 4 town centre projects, and as you would expect, some are more advanced than others. It's quite a challenge to work with on so many projects at once for what is a very small team of officers. But they are committed to delivering these in a timely manner as possible, given the financial constraints. For one thing, we now find ourselves due to the current economic situation caused by factors outside our control. It's worth noting that we've done a lot of consultation to ensure, as far as is possible, and you never please everybody, that the community that we're looking to invest in are part of the design process. These investments are a once in a generation, so we must ensure that they are the absolute best we can do. As can be seen from the report, not only are we investing our residents' money, but where it's been possible, we have secured external funding to help fund these projects and help deliver them. We will continue to pursue external investment and external support where we can identify it. Bartlett is a good example of this, where we were successful in securing a levelling up funding to the tune of 12 million. This came from central government as part of the levelling up 2 bids, which is to be welcomed. However, it's disappointing that some of our other bids were denied funding. The Marsden project, which is a part of this report, is slightly different, as this is a private sector bid. We will act as a responsible body, in effect passporting the funding to help with the viability gap in the proposals to bring the Broughton Road Mills back to life, with a mixture of retail, commercial and residential space. The award of this funding, along with the TPU project, has given us the opportunity to explore the possibility of including Marsden in any future town centre investment projects. So following discussions with the ward members, we are proposing to look at developing a master plan for Marsden and fully intend to utilise the massive experience and expertise we know exists in Marsden. This is a longer term project, but it makes sense to start to look at where an opportunity may exist for future investment and opportunities as and when funding is available. So Chair, I ask Cabinet to accept these proposals.
Thank you very much, Councillor Turner, for that excellent report. It showed that our ambitions and our vision regarding all our centres is still there. And I just noticed that Councillor Lawson is not here, but I would like to assure him that Cleckheaton Town Centre, we also have a master plan for that within our overall investment strategy. Hickman White work is continuing to progress there, and indeed Home Firth. And the 2 levelling up bids that Councillor Turner mentioned, Batley and Marsden, they're a start, but we also had another 2 bids that we actually submitted, which were excellent bids, to be honest with you. They were robust, they had all the evidence there, they had all the outcomes, but lo and behold, the government in their wisdom turned them down. Now, I would not criticise the government to actually have a sudden last-minute list that they pulled out of their back pocket, because I would not be that cynical. But we all know that the levelling up bids and the bidding process costs councils millions, if not billions. What we want to do is we want to make sure that we actually have a process where it's based on need, it's allocated on fair funding formula. So it stopped that beauty contest, and it stopped that contest where need is put on the back burner and politics plays a major part. But having said that, right, yeah, you know, I'm really pleased that we're actually making progress, and thanks very much, Councillor Turner, and all the officers to actually bring the schemes forward. But there is still a lot of work to do, and we'll carry on making sure that we lobby government very, very hard to make sure that we get the resource that we need. Thank you very much. On that note, any more questions or comments from anybody? No? A quick show of hands to approve the report. Thank you, members. Item 13, surplus property disposals 2023-24. Is that Councillor Paul Davis?
Thank you, Leader. And I referred to this a little earlier in one of my answers to Councillor Lawson. And as part of the Council's approved budget, The capital strategy presents a £4 million minimum target for 23-24 with regards to capital receipts, with regards to property assets. And at the moment, for some time, there's a strategy, which we call the Council's corporate property strategy, has been developed by our team in this area, particularly by Joanne as the lead. This review has identified an initial register of surplus property, and this is property that's no longer required to support the organisation's delivery requirements. And I think that's an important point. This is not a knee-jerk reaction. This has been an in-depth, detailed review which takes on board the fact that we have to ensure that we have the right properties in place going forward to provide our services. So this has enabled the team to pull together a list for consideration. This is presented as Appendix A in the report, which I'm sure members have reviewed. And I would take us straight to officers' recommendations with regards to this. The two items within that in section 6 that it's recommended the Cabinet delegate to the Strategic Director for Growth and Regeneration in consultation with the relevant portfolio holder, Service Director, Legal, Governance and Commissioning, the power to dispose of any land and property identified within the Capital Receipts Schedule 23-24 to support the Council's income targets irrespective of the value of the site and on such terms as officers deem most appropriate. And secondly, the Service Director, Legal Governance and Commissioning the power to enter into all agreements necessary to effect any of these disposals referred to at point 1 above. I'd like to put that to the Cabinet Leader. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Paul Davis. Are we all okay to approve this report, standard report of all the disposals that will go en masse to generate capital receipts? I'm going to second that. Thank you very much. I've never felt so warm in all my life. Seriously, my head's spinning. But anyway, okay, I'd like to second that and quick show of hands. Thank you very much. Yeah, sorry, before we go on to item 14, there's a private report under item 16, which will mean that we may have to go into private session, but can I just ask Cabinet members that have we all read item 16 so we don't need to go into private session and then we can go straight into item 14 and make a decision. Are we okay with that? Thank you, members. Item 14, Kirklees Cultural Heart, part of Huddersfield Blueprint Gateway 3, Councillor Graham Turner.
Chair, thanks. It's obviously me again. I'm going to be fairly brief, which is quite stifling in here, and so I'll be brief. And as stated earlier, we are an ambitious cabinet and an ambitious administration, and we recognise that the world we live in is constantly changing, and no more so than the way people choose to buy the things they want and need. The way people spend their leisure time has also changed, and no doubt will continue to evolve. The recent unfortunate experience of COVID accelerated some of those changes, but they were already coming, and it just accelerated them. So as I said, this is well documented as this report, and in the many previous cabinet reports on the cultural heart. So I don't really want to go over old ground. It's been discussed ad infinitum, both at cabinet and council. A huge amount of hard work has been done to get to this point in the development, both from our own staff and the external experts, and I would like to thank them for that and the commitment for sharing our vision on the art of the possible. The very lengthy and detailed appendices before you today are what I call the green light. We have seen many reports over the last few years, what I would call has been amber, just getting us to the point where we can go. Well, I think this is the point where we can go. We've got planning permission. We have a contractor who are now working with and hopefully can look forward to spading the ground on a start date of Q1 2024. We're also working very closely with Greenwich College, who are in negotiations with the government to try and secure funding to build a STEM facility on what we refer to as the Queen Street Edge. This is an exciting development, and if the bid is successful, will help that part of the site to move more quickly. Chair, as I said, this has been discussed many times. This is, for me, the green light. So I move this report and the 12 recommendations in it, and I ask Cabinet to support these recommendations so we can now move on to the next most exciting phase of the cultural heart, starting to get spades in the ground in quarter 1 2024. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Graham Turner. I'd like to second this report. Just a quick summary that we've got a massive investment in the cultural heart. That will completely transform the whole of the town centre. It's very, very exciting. Already a number of external national bodies are interested in what we're doing. And I'm really, really pleased that we've got up to this far to actually start to move forward. Once again, I'd like to thank all our staff who have done exceptionally good work. And without our staff who are pushing this forward, we would not be here. So once again, for the record, a massive appreciation for the staff who have brought this forward. So on that note, can I just have a quick show of hands that we've approved this report? Thank you very much, members. And you'll be glad to know that's the end of the meeting.
No, is this still